Hey, a very good afternoon, everyone. For those who joined us this morning, welcome back. So today we had the onboarding session for UMP users for Web of Science this morning, as well as for Journal Citation Reports and EndNote Online this afternoon. So my name is Julin, and I'm the Regional Solution Consultant from Clarivate. So before we begin, I wanted to just do some housekeeping while we allow more participants to join us. All your lines are on mute upon entry. So if you have any questions, feel free to type those questions into the Q&A panel or the chat box, and I'll be able to monitor those two channels. If you are looking to get the recording will be sent to all of you after today's session, so probably by tomorrow. And the slides will be shared with the library, so you can request the slides from the library later on, probably tomorrow onwards. Okay. So let me just introduce my colleague who's here with me today. So I have with me Henry. So Henry is the account manager based out of Malaysia. Henry, are you there?
Yes, hello, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining the sessions. And thanks, Julie, for arranging that for UMP.
Yeah, and also thanks to UMP Library for helping to arrange today's session. Okay, so without further ado, let me just jump into this afternoon's session. Let me open up the Q&A first. Okay, so to prevent any mishaps from happening, I'm going to turn off my video. Okay, but rest assured, I'm still here. All right. So the topic for this afternoon session will be around strategic publishing for research impact. This morning, we covered the Web of Science, which helps you with early discovery, early research discovery, and you will be able to use Web of Science to do some basic analysis around either UMP publications or the publications on a specific research topic. For this afternoon, when we're talking about publishing, we are talking about then after you've completed your research, you have written your manuscript, and you might want to start looking for a home for this manuscript that you have written. Now, some of you might already have had a journal in mind before you even started doing your research. You already kind of know where you want to publish, but what I wanted to share today was you can do it both ways. You can either select your journals before or after you've completed your manuscript. Either way, you still have to be able to verify and check the integrity of the journal to make sure that you are publishing to good and trusted journals, right? So why am I suggesting this? The reason is because of the growing scholarly publishing landscape. In terms of numbers, this was taken from a 2018 report. It said that there's on an average of about 3 million papers published per year. And these papers actually go into almost 42,500 scholarly journals, out of which about 14,785 of them are open access journals. Now, with open access, what does this mean? Now, some early career researchers might be on the call and might not fully understand the concept of open access. So open access journals are essentially free journals to read. Okay. However, the monetizing of that journal usually comes in the form of article processing charges that the authors themselves have to pay for. So when that happens, you would see that there are some journals that are kind of fake in the sense that they say, oh, we are free for readers to read. We do peer review, but and we publish really fast. That means you submit your manuscript to us, we guarantee that it will be published within 2 weeks. Okay, but the article processing charge that you have to pay me is $50 or $100. Okay, and as researchers, early career researchers who are not experienced in selecting or choosing the right journals to publish in, you sometimes fall prey to these kinds of journals where they just collect your article processing charge, they don't go through peer review, and they just publish your work. It's not an illegal thing, okay, in the sense that if you are the researcher, you publish in this kind of predatory journals, it's not illegal. However, it means that your article will no longer be recognized by indexes like Web of Science or even any other databases out there. And what does that mean? It means the research that you have done for so long, say 6 months, 1 year, actually goes down the drain because you've published into the journal already. The journal would have said, oh, you've already signed the rights to me, and so you cannot publish anywhere else, right? So you get yourself in a fix. So hopefully after today's session, you will be more aware of how you can choose or better select journals that are more trusted and recognized. Okay. So to start us off, I'm giving you a kind of a screening checklist that you can use to screen for predatory journals. Now, this checklist has been taken from thinkchecksubmit.org. It is not an exhaustive list. However, it helps to give you an idea of what to look out for when it comes to selecting journals. It's not just about whether the journal has a journal impact factor or not. There are many other factors in play. Okay. Now, the first thing that you should be asking yourself when you're looking at a journal is, do you or your colleagues know this journal? Very important. That means, are you already reading that journal? Is it constantly referred to by your professors, your lecturers? Okay, make sure that it is a more known journal. Okay. Next, can you easily identify and contact that publisher? Okay. All these journals, most of them should be available online. There should be a way to contact the publisher. The address of the publisher should be clearly stated as well. Okay, so publishers in a sense like probably big publishers like Wiley, Taylor and Francis, those are big publishers. There are also university press. So university press journals are some of them are also quality journals, but just make sure that you check that they are truly the publishers of that particular journal. Okay. Next, is the journal clear about the type of peer review that it uses? Okay. This would be in a sense like, it's not just stating the fact that, we do peer review. Okay. That is just a statement. But what you want to be able to identify or look for is proof that they have done some kind of peer review. It could be in a form like, example, this morning, I showed you the Web of Science author record. The authors themselves actually put in their peer review work done on various journals. So perhaps you could use avenues like this to identify and see whether any of these journals appear in these researchers' profiles. You could also be looking at the articles themselves. So if the journal is an open access journal, you can easily retrieve the PDFs of the full text. Sometimes those PDFs would indicate the date of acceptance, the date of review, first review, date of corrections, and also final publication date. So as long as you see that there's a healthy interval between each stage of the review, that would be proof enough to say that, hey, they actually did go through some form of peer review. Okay. Then articles indexed in services that you use. So if you are, if you want to verify, good avenues are things like DOAJ, Directory of Open Access Journals. Check that they are listed there. Since now you already have Journal Citation Reports as well as Web of Science, check that they are indexed on these platforms. Okay. Then is it clear what fees will be charged? And also, if there are fees to be charged, what are they for? This could sound very logical, but a lot of times these predatory journals would say, oh, article processing charge of 50 USD, and then you submit your article in there and you happen to have like color pages and all that, and they would tell you that they have to collect extra amounts. So make sure that they actually declare at the beginning on their website or like an author support page to share what kind of fees will be charged. Okay. Then do you recognize the editorial board members? I think a lot of authors don't check this as a habit. Most of them will just check whether they have peer review, whether they have ISSN, or whether they are indexed in Web of Science or have a journal impact factor. Okay, but this is one important thing to check in terms of the editorial board members. Check that they are real. Okay, so you have to do a bit of Sherlock Holmes here, where if they say that they have a Nobel laureate, for example, a Nobel laureate as an editorial board, advisory board member, do dig around and check and verify whether that is true. And a lot of the editorial board members will have affiliations tagged to their names. Make sure that those are clearly listed there on their website, on the journal's website, and you're able to track back on the affiliations website to find those editorial board members. Okay, so that would be some kind of verification. Then is the publisher a member of a recognized industry initiative? So one of these initiatives is called COPE, which is the Committee on Publication Ethics. You can go to the website, check out this committee and check whether some of these journals or publishers are part of that initiative. Okay. So this is just a very basic checklist that you should be looking at, some of the important criteria that you should be considering when you are identifying journals to publish in. This morning, I covered about the Web of Science Core Collection. So the Web of Science Core Collection covers about 21,000 journals. And all these 21,000 journals have a profile available on the Journal Citation Reports platform. Okay, so I'll explain to you about what each of these profile pages look like and what kind of information you will be able to see. I wanted to explain this evaluation process again, in case there were anyone who were not able to attend this morning's session. Okay, the journals that are indexed in Web of Science will have to go through an evaluation process before they are indexed into the Web of Science. So any journal that meets our 24 quality criteria will be indexed in the Emerging Sources Citation Index. And if they meet our additional 4 more impact criteria, they will be indexed in our specialized collections, which is the Science Citation Index Expanded, Social Science Citation Index, and Arts and Humanities Citation Index. Now, the criteria that are used to evaluate the journals are based on these 28 criteria. I wanted to highlight some of these criteria to you because if you remember the checklist that I shared with you earlier on, some of these are also present in our criteria. So things like presence of ethics statements, the editorial board composition, editorial affiliation details, author affiliations, peer review, presence of peer review policy. All these are part of that checklist that I just shared earlier on. Okay? So this essentially helps already to save you some time in trying to identify which of those journals have already met these 24 criteria and which of those journals are already quality journals that I can choose from. Right? Okay. So before I go into the Journal Citation Reports database, I just wanted to share a few strategies around publishing. Okay, what can you aim for and for what purpose? The first strategy that I would share is for early career researchers who have probably not published much or only haven't published at all. Okay, It's a bit like learning how to swim. If I myself, I never finally learned how to swim. Okay, I got scared because my coach basically threw me into the deepest end of the pool, and just said, just tread water. And I was like, how do you tread water? I don't know how. And ultimately, it created a fear in me in deep waters. So it's similar to publishing, where if you go into the deep end and try and aim for the highest impact journal, the Q1 journals in that category, most of the time you will hit a lot of rejections. Yeah, rejection is part and parcel of research life, research publication life. Okay, but you don't want to be always hitting that wall when you first start. So a good ground to start with is actually to look for government accredited journals. These are journals that already have been accredited by your own local government bodies. In Malaysia, it would be My Cite, for example, run by MOHI. Okay? So this would be like your local citation indexes or relevant government agencies who would have a list of journals that they recognize and accredit. Then the next strategy would be those with a bit more experience and you think that you want to have a bit more challenge. Okay, you want to identify internationally recognized journals because you want to be able to reach out to international researchers. So you would be able to use platforms like the Web of Science or the Journal Citation Reports to find high quality international journals to publish in. If you want to go one step further, then it will be the third strategy where you want to publish in journals with high rank and prestige. In terms of rank, what am I talking about? These are journals that have a quartile. That means they have a journal impact factor quartile associated with them. These would be those that are in Science Citation Index Expanded and the Social Science Citation Index. One caveat to this is that if you want to publish in high impact journals, do remember that you want to be able to identify a topic that will attract these high impact journals. So one way is to read those journals, take a look at their aims and scopes, what are they looking for, and see whether the research that you're doing will be able to answer to those aims and scopes that the journal is looking for. Now, the fourth and fifth strategies are usually not considered by researchers because not every researcher has the privilege like yourself to have access to Web of Science and Journal Citation Reports. So this fourth strategy is about finding journals that get cited very quickly. Why is it important to identify journals that get cited very quickly? Imagine this. Most of you would be in PhD students and you probably have what, 2-3 years in UMP. Prior to graduating from UMP, you have to publish a paper. What if you get your citations before you even graduate? That sounds good, right? Especially if you are looking to advance your career in research or even as a faculty member. So one indicator or metric that we have on the Journal Citation Report is called the Immediacy Index. Okay, the Immediacy Index is a measure of how quickly your article has the potential to get cited in the first year of publication in that particular journal. All right, so I repeat, this index, this indicator will show you your potential of getting your first citation in the first year of publication in that journal. Right? Later on, I'll show you how to read and understand this metric. Then finally, the last strategy is about identifying journals that get cited for a long time. Now, this is very probably specialization specific. Okay, so some specializations have shorter citation lifespan. Some research areas have longer lifespan for citation. But at the end of the day, what you want to be able to find out is whether your article will continue to get cited if you are published in that particular journal. So there's this other metric in JCR, which is called the Cited Half-Life. And this in no way is related to the nuclear waste, right? But this is a way to measure how long or how many years your article has the potential to receive citations when published in that particular journal. And this metric is measured in terms of the number of years. So these are the 5 strategies that I always consistently share with researchers, so that you, at any point in your career, one of these strategies, at least one of these strategies, will help you with publishing. Right, let's go into the journal citation reports. So what are these metrics that I was talking to you about? Things like the Immediacy Index and the Cited Half-Life. Okay. The journal citation reports actually went through a major revamp last year. So for UMP, I believe you still had access to journal citation reports when it went through that revamp. But we have done some further improvements. The latest report was just released last month, which was in June, and it would have the 2021 Journal Impact Factor. So for all of you who are new to what is the Journal Citation Reports, it is the home of the Journal Impact Factor. So if you were looking at a lot of journal publishers' website or different journals, if you're looking at their Journal Impact Factor, somewhere in June, you might see that it is, say, 3.5. And then towards the end of June or early July, suddenly their Journal Impact Factor changed to maybe 3.8. The reason is because of the release of the Journal Citation Reports. So this report will always be released in June every single year. So why is it important to use Journal Citation Reports? So some of you might already say, oh, I can actually have a quick look at Web of Science and identify which are the journals that publish research on a specific topic. That's true. However, it doesn't give you additional metrics like Immediacy Index or Cited Half-Life, like what I mentioned earlier on. So the Journal Citation Reports gives you unbiased journal statistics from publisher-neutral experts who compile all this data. So you understood about the selectivity of the content on Web of Science. It is the same selection criteria that apply. There is also quality control in place and working, in the sense where every year, before the reports are released, we will monitor the journals for excessive self-citations or citation stacking. If they show these unwelcome behaviors, they will either be given an editorial expression of concern to say, hey, please do some corrections or take note of the excessive self-citations. If you do not correct this in the next JCR, you might be suppressed. Suppressed means that they would be taken off the JCR list. Okay. Then there is also transparency in the data. So many researchers have always asked, so how do you calculate the journal impact factor? Everything is laid out clearly on the journal's profile page. So every journal will have its own profile page, and the calculations of how they have received their journal impact factor, what are the contributing items to this journal impact factor, will all be listed on their profile page. So in terms of numbers, what's covered in the Journal Citation Reports latest release, we cover 21,430 journals altogether. So currently, the total number of journals that are indexed in the Web of Science is 21,430. You would be able to see the breakdown according to each of the broad specializations. Like science, there's about 12,828. Social science, which is under will be under 6,691. Arts and humanities, about 3,000. Now, there are also new entrants to the Journal Impact Factor. So 192 titles actually received their first Journal Impact Factor this year. In terms of open access journals, we have 5,300 Go open access journals that are indexed in the Web of Science currently. These journals span across 114 different countries and across 254 research categories, which is the Web of Science research category. One thing to take note of is that some of these journals can belong to multiple research categories. Okay. So there is a question here from Kasing. If a journal shows unwelcome behavior like high self-citation, it will be suppressed in JCR. Will the journal still be indexed by Web of Science? So it will be indexed in Web of Science until the year that it had been suppressed. So let's say, for example, based on this year's report, which is the 2022 report, the journal no longer is indexed in Web of Science, but you can still see the 2021, 2022, 2020 content. So prior year's content is still there. So meaning the previous reports, they are still indexed, but this year they stopped. So from this year onwards, no more content will be indexed in the Web of Science. Okay. Now, from last year's release of the Journal Citation Reports, in the past, we used to only cover the science and the social science citation index journals, which is the two indexes at the top, these two. Okay. But since last year's report, we have added on the arts and humanities and the emerging sources citation index. This translates to an additional 72% more journals that you will see on Journal Citation Reports compared to any other year before. But this does not mean that the arts and humanities and emerging sources citation index journals have a journal impact factor. They still do not have. Okay. So why don't these two indexes have a journal impact factor? For ESCI, the reason is because they do not have, they have not met our impact criteria. So you remember our 24 quality criteria and 4 impact criteria. So these journals in ESCI currently meet our 24 quality criteria, but they do not meet our 4 impact criteria, and therefore they do not have a journal impact factor. For the arts and humanities, AHCI, they have met our impact criteria. However, due to the norms of reviewing the content and citation behavior for arts content and arts journals, they currently do not have a journal impact factor. Now, even though these two indexes do not have the journal impact factor, but because they are now available on the Journal Citation Reports, they will be provided with the additional indicators available, like the Journal Citation Indicator, which I'll explain later on. They will have all the other metrics that the journals have. So things like Immediacy Index, Eigenfactor Score, Normalized Eigenfactor Score, Article Influence Score, Citing Half-Life, Cited Half-Life. I will not go through the definition of every single indicator here, but you will be able to see the calculations or definitions later on as I go through the platform. Now, what I wanted to elaborate on here is a few things like the Immediacy Index. So for the Immediacy Index, this, as I mentioned earlier on in the strategy page, is the measure that will give you an idea of potentially how quickly can you get your first citation in the first year of publication in this journal. So if you see this table here, the number is 1.015. Okay, to give you context of how this is calculated. So say, for example, this particular journal published 100 articles this year. Okay, and for all 100 articles, they have received a total of 100 citations. So the immediacy index will be 100 citations divided by 100 articles. And therefore, the number is 1. So this would mean that potentially you will get 1 citation in the first year of publication if you put your manuscript into this journal. If the journal has 100 articles and 200 citations in total, you take 200 divided by 100, you get a number of 2. Then that would mean that this gives you even higher chance to get your first citation in the first year of publication in this journal. The other indicator that I wanted to explain was the cited half-life. So the cited half-life is here. It's represented by 10.6. This means in terms of years. So if you publish your article in this journal, your article has the potential of receiving citations up to 10 years. Okay, so it means that even the articles that are 10 years old in this journal are still receiving citations. Okay. Now, to give you a deeper explanation on this new indicator, I wanted to spend some time here because this indicator was newly released last year in June with last year's report. And this is called the Journal Citation Indicator. The journal impact factor is a journal level metric, meaning it is based on the overall citations of the journal. Whereas for the Journal Citation Indicator, this is an article level metric, which would show you the overall performance of the articles that are published in this journal. So how do we calculate this? This is based off a indicator that we have in Insights, which is our benchmarking and analytics tool. It's called CNCI, Category Normalized Citation Impact. This CNCI is a normalized indicator which has already taken into account the publication year, the document type, and the specialization of the article. Any number that is above 1 would mean that that particular article is performing above global average in that particular category. If the number is below 1, then it means that it is performing below global average in its subject category. So to calculate the journal's JCI, what we've done is we've taken the CNCI of every single article in the preceding 3 years and averaged out the CNCI. So if you can see this example here, this journal has a JCI of 0.74. It means that this journal is performing below global average in its category. Okay. So this is more details of how the JCI is calculated. Feel free to click through here once you get the slide deck to find out more about how it's calculated. Now on the platform, the JCR platform, you will be able to see a few different views of the journal. So you will be able to see the various indicators that would give you a more holistic picture of the performance of the journal. You will also be able to see the open access content available on each individual journal. You'll also be able to see which kinds of document types or is it reviews or articles that get cited more within those journals. You can also compare between 4 journals that you perhaps have shortlisted side by side You can compare them so that you can see which ones would be a better choice for you. You can also browse for the content by category and by publisher. This would be very useful, especially for researchers who are always asking about, so which are the journals indexed in Web of Science in my subject category? Okay, so you would be able to browse and use this feature to identify. So Jin, you have your hand raised. Would you like to type your question into the Q&A or the chat so that we can answer those questions through the session, yeah? Okay, so let's jump into the live platform to show you around. In the meantime, if you have any questions, remember to type them into the chat box or the Q&A. Okay, so to access Journal Citation Reports, if you were on Web of Science, you can access this through the products list on the top right-hand navigation. So you can jump to Journal Citation Reports right here. Alternatively, you can go through your library's website, log in to the off-campus access, on-campus access, and search for Journal Citation Reports. Then once you get into Journal Citation Reports, if you have previously registered for your Web of Science ID and password, you can also link it to Journal Citation Reports and register so that you have your some personalization features available. A few first things that I wanted to cover before we proceed is on the homepage. If you want to just quickly verify whether a journal is indexed in Web of Science, there are two things you can check. Number one is to check on Journal Citation Reports whether it's listed here. So I'm going to pick one example. Okay, so take, for example, this journal. I did identify one journal and it is indeed indexed in the Web of Science because I can see that it is here. Okay, so I can click into the journal profile page. The other thing that you can do is the other way you can verify. So let's say once you have typed in the journal's name here and you still can't find it, sometimes it could be newly indexed journal. So what you can do is go to master journal list. So under the products navigation again, there is a link to the master journal list. So you go to master journal list and you search for that journal. Okay, so this would be how you would just double check whether a journal is indexed in Web of Science. Now, I think based on Casing's earlier question about journals that were previously indexed in Web of Science but currently not, okay, when you are searching or checking on Web of Science, for example, so let's come back to Web of Science. Let's clear this. And you were searching for publication titles. So let's look. Okay. So sometimes you would, even though the journal is currently not indexed in Web of Science, it might still show up, okay? But just check the publication year. Okay? So it means that if, let's say, you don't see the 2022 content or even the 2021 content, it might mean that from 2020, it was no longer indexed in Web of Science. Okay? So those are the few ways that you can start to check and verify those journals. So let's come back to Journal Citation Reports. There are a few ways to browse this list. So you have browse journals, browse categories, browse publishers. Later on, as part of the roadmap, we are going to expand on browse by country. But you can already do this when you're browsing the journals by using some of the filters available. So let's start by looking at journals in your own specialization. So you can start by going to Browse Categories. We have grouped them into some broad areas first. So there is agricultural science, arts and humanities, biology, chemistry, clinical medicine, and so on. And under each of these broad areas, these are the number of subject categories from Web of Science. Now, let's say I want to look at the engineering categories. If you click on engineering, you would see all the subject categories under engineering. If you want to look at mechanical engineering, just click on mechanical engineering. And you would see two lines in the table. Now, this would mean that you can see here under addition, it will say SCIE. What does this mean? It means that these 137 journals have a journal impact factor because they belong to SCIE. Then these are the 40 journals that are in ESCI. So depending on which list you want, you can just click on B137. So this will be the 137 journals for mechanical engineering that are in SCIE, and you can see their corresponding indicators here. Let me just show you. This one is a custom display that I have. So if you have registered for your own ID and password, you will be able to customize the display. By default, only the Journal Impact Factor, Journal Impact Factor Quartile, JCI, and Open Access Score percentages will be there. But you can select or customize the view that you want accordingly. Okay. So I'm going to go back to my view. So with this 137 journals, you can sort by each of these fields except the quartile. Okay. So you can sort them by journal impact factor if you want to identify the journal in this category with the highest journal impact factor. Okay. Now I wanted to explain to you how you can use the journal impact factor and the JCI together. Okay, so say for example, now here you have all the Q1 journals in mechanical engineering. So all these are Q1. These are the journal impact factor, but by looking at journal impact factor alone, it doesn't really tell you much about the impact or the performance of this journal. You can refer to the journal citation indicator here. So you can see example. So let me just sort this by journal impact factor. So you can see this one has the highest, okay? And look at this one. Okay, so this is number 2. This has a journal impact factor of 17.4. It is a Q1 journal, but in terms of JCI, it's only 1.08. Compared to these others, which is of a lower journal impact factor, but higher JCI. What this would tell me is that because it takes into consideration 3 years data for JCI, it will tell me that these journals are performing much better in terms of the citation performance compared to this one, which is number 2. Okay, so if I might want to consider targeting some a journal that has better citation performance. Okay. Okay. If you want to see the full list that includes the ESCI journals, then you can just easily remove this filter here. So there's this SCIE filter. It's filtered through. And you can see the number of journals increased to 177. If you want to download this list for your own reference, you can click on export. Just take note that there is an export limit of 600. So if this list is more than 600, only the first 600 will be exported. Okay. Now let's take a closer look at the journal profile itself. Now let's click through into Progress in Energy and Combustion Science. So every journal that is on Journal Citation Reports will have its own journal profile page. And you will be able to see all the details about the journal here. So the things like the publisher, the address, number of issues per year. You will also be able to see the journal impact factor over 5 years. So how is its performance? Is it increasing? Okay. And I mentioned about transparency on how they calculated the journal impact factor. You can click here and you'll see the formula. So it is calculated based on citations in 2021 to items published in 2019 plus 2020 and divided by the number of citable items. Okay. So the citable items here in journal impact factor calculation refers to articles and reviews only. But the citation counts can include all document types. Okay, so you have a question on we should see journal impact factor or JCI for better journal. You can see both. So earlier on when I mentioned about the journal impact factor, so like for example, this journal impact factor is 3.35. So if you are aiming to publish in a Q1 journal, this journal is a Q1 journal, then the next thing you will see is in terms of the citation JCI, how is it performing? Is it performing good? If it's 1 point something, 2 point something, or even below 1, those would definitely then impact your decision on whether you will want to publish in that journal or not. Okay, so you can use both in complement. You don't have to choose one or the other. I hope that answers your question. Now, coming back to the journal impact factors contributing items, you would see that there are citable items here, which is 62. What this gives, this is quite useful for researchers in the sense that if you need to read the journal, if you want to read the journal, you can see which are those items that have better citation from this journal itself. Then if you want to see the content, you can immediately click through to view in Web of Science. The JCI is here. So this particular journal is 2.3. You can see its JCI over time. Citation distributions. This would mean would show you the number of citations by items. Okay, so distributed across articles and reviews. Then in terms of the open access content, okay, say for example, this one would be more utilized be more useful for the library in a collection management sense, where if you want to see those journals that require subscription, if a large proportion of this content is open access, then are you paying too much for the subscription? Okay, so this could be utilized for collection management purposes as well. Now coming to the ranking, so that in terms of quartile, this is where it gets slightly confusing for researchers. So I'll take some time to explain about the ranks. The quartiles that you constantly hear about, be it MIRA evaluations and so on, the quartiles are always referring to the journal impact factor quartile. Okay, so just take note, it's based on the journal impact factor ranking, journal impact factor quartile. So when you're looking at JCR, always look at the JIF quartile to identify the correct quartile for that journal. Now, this particular journal is ranked a Q1 journal. And you would see that it is in multiple categories. It's in energy fuels, it's also in engineering chemicals, and engineering mechanical and thermodynamics. For this journal, it's good that it's all in Q1. Okay, however, there could be some chance that, for example, some of the journals would have Q2 in one category, Q1 in another category. MIRA, I believe, or even your university would take the higher quartile. So if it was a Q1 in one category, it would just say it's Q1. Okay. Now, how do we calculate the quartiles? It's very simple. See this number here. This 119 would mean that in the category of energy and fuels, there are 119 journals. Okay, this journal is ranked number 4. So it is in which quartile? You take 119, divide by 4. So it would be about 25, 28, probably 28 journals. So the top 28 journals will be your Q1 journals. Okay, so it's always the top 25, subsequent 25, 25% journals. It's very clear cut. Okay, so we divide it by 4, and the first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter will be the various Qs. Okay, so I hope that helps to explain how we calculate our quartile. Another common question that a lot of researchers will have is, how come I see in this journal in Schemago, it is a Q1 journal, but on Web of Science, it is a Q2 journal? The reason is because we are two different platforms. We are two different indexes. The way that we evaluate journals are different. The way we put in the subject categories are different. The way we assign the journals are different. And therefore, the number of journals that we have in each category will be also different. So the quartiles are very dependent on the number of journals. I believe for other databases, they might not even be a clear-cut quarter separation between the quartiles. So there is a clear difference between them. Okay. Now let's go down. Now with the introduction of JCI, there is also now a rank for JCI. So that's why I said don't be confused. Always refer to the JIF Quartile when it comes to the evaluations from Myra or even your university. JCI is a fairly new indicator. Currently, it's in its infancy, so it has not been adopted by any major evaluation bodies yet. But soon, hopefully, with the feedback from the researchers and so on, we can possibly put this into the evaluation bodies. But with this introduction, you would see that there's also a JCI quartile. It just means that in this energy and fuels, there are 145 journals altogether. You can see that there's a clear difference in numbers. Earlier on, it was 119. Now it's 145. The reason is because this 145 includes ESCI. Okay. Now let's scroll down and see citation network. Okay, here is where you see the cited half-life. There's a definition here. So the cited half-life is the median age of the items in this journal that were cited in the JCR year. So you're talking about articles that are about 9.7 years old that are still receiving citations in this year's JCR report. Okay? So your journal, your article could potentially still have that potential of receiving citations up to 9 years. Okay. I'm seeing some information from someone saying that there's no sound. Henry, can you confirm that you can still hear me? Hello, Henry. Can anyone hear me? Hello? Okay, good. Thank you, thank you. All right, so Abdullah, I think maybe it's the setting of your speakers, so just check your speaker settings, yeah? Let me just type in. Okay, now let's look at the data. Okay, earlier on we talked about rejection from journals. Rejections is part and parcel of researcher life, yeah? But a lot of researchers will say, okay, I get rejected by this journal. Then how? Where else can I publish? Where else can I publish my article? Okay. So you could actually go to this particular segment here. You would see things like sources. So if you click on 137 sources, you can click here. These would be the other journals that you could select from. Okay, this could be because they have cited each other. Okay, so these would be your alternative journals that you can publish in if you got rejected by this one. Okay. Now let's scroll down. Now there are other content metrics available. Okay, so this one is quite interesting, where we will tell you what are the items in the citable, what are the document types in the citable items that are published by this journal. Okay, so there are articles and reviews here. So this journal publishes 0 articles, but 38 reviews. What does this tell you? It means that it publishes only review articles. It does not publish original articles. So if you were publishing an original article, then this might not be a suitable home for your manuscript or your research. Okay. Now, the next thing is contributions by organizations and contributions by country. Then you have organizations. The contributions by organizations will kind of show you which journals have submitted, which institutions have submitted articles to this journal and have published it. Okay, so in terms of country, you would see its proportions. This gives you insights into how regional or how international the content is in the journal. Okay, is it more US centric? Is it a balance of East and West? Is it more regional, Asian centric, and so on? Okay. Now the other indicators here, I will not go through in details, but there are definitions here for you to see. Okay. Now let's look at the Immediacy Index. This Immediacy Index is 9.211, very high. So it means that if you manage to get published here, you would definitely probably get your first citation in the first year of publication. Okay, so 9 is always very good, very high. Okay, so you can see that there's a very rich amount of data and metrics available for just one journal alone. And this would give you a very comprehensive insight and overview of the journal before you submit your manuscript. Okay. Now I have another question here. The cited half-life only indicates that a particular paper still receives citations after certain years. Does it mean even only one paper receive one citation, then the cited half-life become 10 years? No, I don't think so. So there is a way of calculating that we have for the cited half-life, okay, because it is based on the median age of the items. Okay, so it's not just one article that is 10 years old, but we will take the age of all the journal or of all the articles that were cited and calculate its median age. Okay. Okay, now let's go back. Let's close it. Okay. Okay, now if there's any journal that you want to bookmark or keep as your favorites, you can select them and add to favorites. You can save up to 50 journals. Okay, or you can just compare these 3. So let's select them and compare. So when you're comparing these 3, all the different sections will be side by side, and you can then compare which of the journals has a better performance or better suited for your manuscript. Okay, so let's go back to the home to browse the journals. If you want to remove all these filters, you can. So once you have removed all these filters, it essentially shows you all the journals available on JCR. So you have 2143 journals right here. And you can make use of the filters here on the left to help you to identify specific types of journals. So say, for example, you want to find a specific category, you can also do so using the filters. So let's say I am doing computer science and information systems, and I only want to find journals that are in the top 10%. Okay. So the JIF percentile is top 10%. So it will be 90 to 100 and apply. Then this 16 journals will be those in computer science and information systems that are in the top 10% in terms of journal impact factor. Okay. If you remove this, then it is across all of Web of Science, and this would be 1,464 journals that are in the top 10%. If you want to export this 1004, I'm afraid it might be a bit difficult because of the export limit. So my suggestion is, if you need this list of 1004, break it down by filtering by category. Okay, and then you can select the categories until you reach about 600 journals, and then you export that first batch and then subsequent categories in another batch. All right. So browse by categories I've shown you. Browse by publisher. This is something that we just released. So in the event that you want to have a look at a publisher report, publisher's information, you will be able to see here. So let's say Springer Nature, how many journals are there in JCR? 2,207. Then if you want to see all the journals by this publisher, just click through to this number. This links you to a publisher report that we have on Insights, but because you don't have access to it, so you might not be able to link through, but this gives you more detailed information about the publisher itself. In terms of the support available for JCR, okay, go to the home page. I don't know why my resource center has disappeared, but as per what you see on the Web of Science, for example, even here it's gone. So I might have to clear my cache again because they're doing some upgrading in the background. So sometimes these features do disappear once in a while. But if that happens, just clear the cache and restart. There will be a question mark icon, and that's our resource center, and that will be where you can get more training available for journal citation reports. Okay. Now, there is this other feature called Match My Manuscript, but I will not be going through this yet because when I go through EndNote, I will be able to show you a more robust way of matching your manuscript to suitable journals. Okay. But essentially, this would allow you to enter your manuscript title. That means you have written your article already, type in your title, your abstract, and it will try to retrieve recommendations for journals based on your abstract and title. Okay. So now, let me just go back to my slide. That's all I have for journal citation reports. In the event that, let's say for the library, if you want to integrate with APIs, there is also API available for journals, but this is at additional subscription cost. So if you do want to explore Journals API to retrieve the quartile information for journals, for your own publications, etc., into your own system, let us know and we can discuss further. Okay. Oops. This links to the support pages for Journal Citation Reports. You will see the PDF guides, the training videos, and so on that you can refer to. Okay. So, Kasing, you have a question about Match My Manuscript. So, Match My Manuscript would require you to register for a user account on Master Journal List. So that you will be prompted to register. That's a free registration. Just register for that, and you can proceed to use Match My Manuscript. Okay. Now, we have about 40 minutes more. I wanted to just cover a basic walkthrough of EndNote. Okay. Kasing, you have a question about user account. Must it have an institutional email? Not necessarily so, but yeah, make sure that the email is monitored. So that means you yourself are able to check, because if you forget your password, that's where we send it to. Okay. All right. So as part of your subscription to Web of Science and Journal Citation Reports, UMP users will also have access to EndNote Basic. So you would have the EndNote online version. So EndNote is a way for you to manage your references. Okay, you are able to add references to a list, group them to certain based on certain criteria into folders. You can also download a plugin called Cite While You Write, so that you can write the your manuscript using this feature, which helps you to organize your references on your Word document itself. For today, I will just give you a basic walkthrough of the EndNote Online version, so that you can see whether you'll be interested to get the EndNote 20 software. The EndNote 20 software is a separate subscription, which either can be purchased individually, that means using your own credit card, or you can actually consolidate the order and perhaps a subscription through the whole institution. So on EndNote Online, you will be able to do some basic organization of references. So you can add references by an online search, or by adding a brand new reference using a form. So this is the manual entry version. So you can actually go to collect new reference, and then select the reference type and key in the various bibliographic information. Now for EndNote, there is a limit of 50,000 references, EndNote Online, and there's a 2 GB limit to storage. Okay. If you have already previously got a reference list, then you want to import this into EndNote, you can also do this from here. What you need to do is go to Import References, choose the file type, and import. You can organize your references, so it's not just about putting your references in one whole list, one long list. You can create groups for your references so that you can better organize it. So you can group them according to perhaps your research papers that you're writing, or even topics, specific topics. It's up to you to select. So to create groups, what you do is you go to your reference list, and then you select the references first, and in the drop-down menu, there is a way to create new group. Select that and follow the instructions. You can also set the bibliographic styles. So within the online version, I believe there's a limit to the number of styles available. If you want access to over 1,000 styles more, then what you can do is upgrade your access to the full paid subscription. Okay. But the basic ones like APA, Vancouver, those would still be available for you to use. The other thing that you can't do on the free version is that you can't edit the references style. So you can't change things like adding additional spaces or indentations to the style and save it as your own. Okay, that has to be done through EndNote 20. The Cite While You Write plugin looks a little bit like this. So once you have installed the Cite While You Write, you will see this on your word processor, and there will be a EndNote appearing in the ribbon. And when you want to include a citation as you're writing the paper, then you select Insert Citations. This window will pop up, and you type a quick search to find the relevant reference you want to add, and you include it. So once you've included it, what it will do is it will automatically number it for you. And then at the end of your document, it will already have consolidated it in the proper style that you require. There is EndNote training and instruction videos available. So today I only just gave you a very quick run through. But if you want detailed instructional videos, there is a EndNote basic instructional video link here that you can access to. If you have any questions or support needed for EndNote, do reach out via this link right here. Okay. So how do you access EndNote online? What you need to do is on Journal Citation Reports, for example, under Products, there is a EndNote link. So you can use the same ID and password that you have used for Web of Science to create your own EndNote account. Once you're here, you will not see this long list of folders that you see online, okay? But you might see a blank one. So the first thing that you can do is to start collecting references either via the online search, or what you can do is on the Web of Science, once you have searched for something, okay, then you can select this and export to EndNote Online. Okay. Then to add new reference, this would be where you go to new reference and you select the reference type. So if you choose a book, then the fields will be populated for a book. Now to manage the groups, okay, you can click on Organize, Manage by Groups. You can either create a new group here. So if I click Create New Group, it will prompt me for a name. Okay. And there will be the new group here. So to add references to this group, what you need to do is go to your reference list. Go to this list of 1004. Okay. Select the ones that you want to put into that new group and select Add to Group UMP. Okay, and now the UMP group would have 4 references. So that's how you do them. So Afida, you have a question. The users do not need to have a product key, no need to install. No, so online version, there's no installation required. There's no product key, just your online account. Okay. The Cite While You Write installation can be done from here. So there's a Cite While You Write plugin link. So you click on Cite While You Write, and then there will be a download for Windows or Macintosh. Okay. Okay. The other feature that is quite useful is things like find duplicates. So in the event that you have added batches of references, sometimes you want to just double check that you have not added multiple times. Then you can click on Organize, Find Duplicates, And it will prompt you which are the duplicates, and usually they will just highlight one that you want to delete. Okay. It will also show you the date that you have added it to the library, the last update, and then you can remove. Okay. Can we sync EndNote Desktop with the online version? Yes, you can. So if you already have a desktop version, then you can definitely synchronize this to your EndNote Online. So let me see whether I can access this, because the last time I did this on my computer, I had to install something. Okay, give me a second. So what I'm doing now is I've opened up the desktop version, which is EndNote 20. Some of you might are using the older versions like EndNote X8, X9. So this is the latest version, EndNote 20. It will look very different from the previous versions. And the synchronization can be done from here. So there is a sync configuration. And hang on. Okay, so edit preferences. There's a sync preference here. This is where you enter your EndNote credentials. So you have registered for your EndNote Online. You can enter it here with a password. And once it has been done, then it was there will be a synchronization. Okay. So there will be a sync button here, and you can just do a synchronization. Okay, so that is how you would use EndNote Online. Since I have the desktop version open, I just wanted to show you what else you can do on the desktop version. If you have created multiple groups here, so I have done one which is hydrogen, I can actually do a right click, and there is this thing called Manuscript Matcher. Okay, so if I click Manuscript Matcher, it will link me out to EndNote Online and go to this tab called Match. So what it has done is, based on my references from that folder, it has now linked me out and allow me to add those references as part of my manuscript matching. So let me see, green. Yes. We have to type in something. Then you click on Find Journals. And immediately you would see the recommended journals that you can publish in and the relevant rankings, quartiles, and also click to view journal information to the publisher's website or to the submission page of the journal. Okay, so this makes sure that you are linking out to the correct journal, because if you have to go out of the EndNote or Manuscript Matcher to find that journal name, sometimes there are multiple journals with similar names, and you end up sending your manuscript to a different journal. Okay. Okay, so this is EndNote Online. If you need any further support, there will be a getting started here. So you can, there will be instructions here on how to do each of these steps. Cite while you write plugin, how you can create a formatted bibliography, format a paper. All this information is available on the website. All right. Okay, so now we have about 10 minutes more. It's been a long day, but I hope what I've covered today is going to help you in your research. So if you have any questions about Web of Science, Journal Citation Reports, or EndNote Online, feel free to type those questions into the Q&A or the chat. Otherwise, for those of you who have no questions, everything is clear. Thank you for your time, and thank you to the library for helping to arrange today's session. And I look forward to meeting all of you face-to-face soon. And good luck with your research papers. Okay, so any questions from anyone?